Hi, everybody. My name is Mr. Powell. I'm the creator and teacher of History at Our House, and this is my son, Patrick Henry.
Hello.
And we're here to discuss ancient history as we have studied it over the past year in this first in a series of video FAQs, frequently asked questions about History at Our House. What does ancient history look like? Well, this past year, Patrick has been part of the class, and so I decided to have him help me to explain it. And so, Patrick, let's start off with the fact that this year in ancient history, we study 4 civilizations. Can you tell me what the 4 were that we studied?
All right, let's see. Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Greece and Rome.
Okay.
And what about Persia?
Oh, yeah, good. Persia we tend to group together with Mesopotamia. All right, that's a good question.
I sort of thought so.
Right, so we studied those 4. And now those 4 civilizations are fascinating. Egypt and Mesopotamia are very ancient. Greece and Rome less so. But what else is different about those 2 pairs? On the one hand, Egypt and Mesopotamia. And then on the other hand, Greece and Rome. We have 2 different words that we use to describe those. What do we say about Greece and Rome as cultures? They are ancient, but they are a special kind of ancient. What word do we use to describe that?
There's archaic and there's classical.
Okay, so archaic refers to which ones?
Archaic refers to Egypt and Mesopotamia, and classical refers to Greece and Rome. Okay,
why do we have those 2 terms? What do they mean? Why are Greece and Rome classical civilizations?
Greece and Rome are classical because classical means ideas we still use. For example, the Republic was one of the Romans' ideas, and the founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence, which is like a republic on, I think it was similar principles.
Okay, very good. Similar ideas indeed. Yeah, so the founding fathers look back to Rome, and they also look back to Greece, and in particular Athens, which created the first what?
Athens created a democracy, which isn't as great as a republic, but it's still a nice thing.
Indeed. 2 superior forms of government that were created in the classical world. Today we're going to focus on the archaic world, and we'll get to the classical in our next video FAQ. So we studied the archaic world, which is extinct, which means that those civilizations are gone, but more than that, that the ideas and values that the people held are no longer upheld in this world today. So that means Egypt and Mesopotamia we are much less connected to, but we became connected to them nonetheless. How did people start to learn about Egypt in particular? Because there were these pyramids in the desert and we didn't know anything about the Egyptians who had built them. How did we start to learn about their history? What was discovered that helped us uncover that?
The Rosetta Stone in 1799.
Okay, and what was that stone?
It was described with 3 languages. The only one I remember is that there were hieroglyphics on it.
Right, that was the one we wanted to learn, and along with something called hieratic, 2 forms of Egyptian writing, and there was a form of writing on there that people did know how to read because it was Greek, and Greek civilization is a classical one, which people have maintained their awareness of that ancient language. Right, so we learned about Egyptian language that way. It was translated by a man named Champollion, and then we were able to read the story of ancient Greece through the Egyptian records. How far back does Egyptian history go?
About 5,000 years, but just to be a little precise, 5,016.
Indeed. So Egyptian history starts circa when?
Circa 3000 BC,
okay.
Approximately.
Circa means approximately or around. It's a Latin expression, indeed. Okay, and what happened at that time?
Menes Narmer unified Egypt, and to be a little precise and exact, it was Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt.
Right, Egypt was not yet a unified country, and then the story of Egypt begins when this legendary king Menes, who's referred to in historical sources as Narmer, unified the country and brought it together. What are the Egyptians most famous for having accomplished, and when did they do that? What's that big anchor fact that jumps out at us from the desert of Egypt?
The pyramids of Giza, circa 2,500 BC.
Okay, wonderful.
2,500.
Yes, indeed. Right. And so people were excited about Egypt because of the pyramids, but also they got excited about Egypt in the 20th century. Something happened that really got people excited about ancient Egypt. What was that?
Wait, what was it again? When was it?
19 something.
1922. The discovery of King Tut's tomb. King Tutankhamun, I think it was.
That was his original name, which is fascinating. And he's more famously known as Tutankhamun. And that had to do with the change of Egyptian religion.
Oh,
right. But who discovered the tomb in 1922?
Howard Carter.
Howard Carter. Well, another thing that's exciting about that is that modern scientists have discovered that there may be additional chambers in that tomb. So we may be learning in the near future here that there's even more exciting things to be discovered in that tomb. So the pharaohs, of course, are like pharaohs like King Tut and so on, were very powerful characters, and they promised to rule well and so on. And there were similar rulers in Mesopotamia. Who's the most famous of the ones in Mesopotamia? Mesopotamia, we don't have pyramids to look at. The structures they built called ziggurats, they're in ruins because they were made of clay brick, and so they didn't last. But we do have a stone tablet that has a code on it. What code is that from Mesopotamia?
The Code of Hammurabi.
Very good. When was that created?
That was created in circa 1700 BC. Okay.
And what did it say? What are the famous lines?
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Right. So this is an archaic code of laws, right? A very basic sort of form of justice, and not the kind of thing that we have now in more civilized times. But again, a very interesting measure of what life was like back then. All right. So to wrap up with archaic history, all of the civilizations that we study in ancient times are extinct today. They're no longer around. But in particular, Egypt and Mesopotamia and Persia were all replaced by one culture, Islamic culture. When did that happen?
That happened circa 622 AD.
Okay, so we have the rise of Islam. Now you said AD, which is very useful because most of ancient history happens when? In what part of the calendar?
BC, which means before Christ.
Okay, very good.
Because it was before Jesus Christ.
Okay, good. So the calendar that we have in the modern world is based on the life of Jesus Christ. So we use the notation BC to say that. And then the AD means what? Or stands for what?
It stands for Anno Domini, which is something in Latin.
Yes, indeed. In the year of our Lord. It's a Christian expression. So we still use that calendar because it shows the importance of Christianity in the modern world. Okay, very good. So that's archaic history, ladies and gentlemen, and how we studied it in History at Our House. What Patrick was demonstrating today are what we call anchor facts. The method of anchor facts is one that I use in History at Our House, and so the students, as you can see, recall those quite readily because the significance of those facts is very available to them, very accessible to them. And so we're going to stop there for today. And in our next installment, we'll tell you about the classical world of Greece and Rome. Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome, and bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.